Hi there, and welcome to this Treasure from the Vault episode of Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. This week, I'm bringing you the favorite PhD Dojo with Gad Sabbatier, where we talk about careers outside R&D for PhDs and postdocs. So happy listening and happy sharing.
The PhD is an adventure, an odyssey into knowledge for which you must prepare. If you want tips, news, and a little humor about the PhD and about career readiness, that's what I bring you every 2 weeks here on PhD Dojo. News, tips, grad school stories, listener questions. Here you'll find everything to be a black belt at the PhD and beyond. Welcome to the dojo.
Welcome to this new episode of the PhD Dojo in collaboration with the Second Lab. Today, with Gad Sabbatier, we're going to talk about a question brought by one of the Second Lab students, Romane Oliverio, which is, what is out there in the job market besides R&D after my PhD? Thank you, Romane. And now for my discussion with Gad Sabbatier of the Second Lab.
So there's different way to bring the question and to answer to the questions, but of course, maybe some of you after your research, you are fed up with research. Research in the lab, what I'm saying, and you would like to do something else, and it's totally possible because with a PhD you can do many kind of jobs. So this discussion can stay for 2 hours. We can talk about different kind of positions, different kind of jobs. It's a very broad topic, but of course, yes, you can do a lot of jobs. So also, what I would like to we can go deeper into it, but what I would like to say first is we are not talking just to only PhD in science, engineering, technology, and math. We are talking also for people in humanities because the type of jobs that we can talk about are also for everybody who has a PhD. Sometimes it's more related to the fields. Sometimes it's more so you need to do a particular field like engineering or law or something else. But sometimes not. You can do these type of jobs in industry setting, but the job could be acquired, but could be filled by somebody in law or somebody in social science, but also for somebody in engineering. Really depends what kind of job. So actually, I think there's 3 things to figure out: is the type of job, the field, and what kind of company do you want to go in. So is it a startup company or it's a large big company? So
We need to figure this out. So one thing that it looks to me is, and we talked a little bit before, there's, you have a list of possibilities to present, but I think there's kind of a common line in all of these positions that connect them to the PhD profile. Can you talk a little bit about that? So, because again, if we're talking about non-research jobs, we're kind of saying, what other skills that are not my research skills that I can leverage in the job market? Basically, that's the question that I understand.
yeah, exactly. So if you do research, basically, I don't know for you if you are in art or because sorry, I'm an engineer and a scientist. So if you are in art, I don't know if you follow the same process, but I would say that in social science, in math, engineering, you have all the same kind of process. That's the same process for centuries. You do a literature review first, and then you make an hypothesis, you ask a question, and you would like to answer to the questions, and you do it by research. You start doing experiments, but also you can talk to people to have the answers and make statistics analysis. After this, you communicate your science, so you transfer your knowledge. You can also, if you found something very great in the lab, you can protect it, and so you sell your science at the end. So that's pretty much the broad process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you love doing literature review or analyze data, jobs like an analyst or business analyst or market analyst
Mm-hmm.
or VC analyst, so you work in venture capitals, that's all that jobs are very interesting for you if you like sitting at the desk, making research, asking yourself some question or asking question to others. That's this type of job is for you. So everything which is analyst, even data scientist, is very great.
Which is very on vogue today. Yeah.
Yeah, on Vogue, and also another type of job on Vogue is UX researchers, user experience researchers. Very interesting kind of jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you go to the next step, so you made your literature review or you found out, it's everything related to the experiment. We decide to not talk about R&D, so R&D jobs are here mostly, but you can think about like more in an engineering setting.
Mm-hmm.
So you can think about quality assurance or quality control type of jobs, very important. Verification, validation, if you work in pharmaceutical or med tech, it's
Mm-hmm.
very
Or
important.
chemical or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Chemical engineering, process engineering, all that type of jobs, even the production engineering, fabrication, all that type of jobs are very interesting. Um, and then if you analyze the data and you have to sell it, so
Mm.
it's all the technical sales specialist type of job you can work. So a PhD can say like, well, sales, I'm not doing that, but actually if you sales your research, you talk to somebody and you like to make a collaboration or sell your research, finally you sell a little bit. So this is this kind of type of jobs.
I see what you mean. Now, it's true that the thing with selling, it's one of usually it's one of the terms and it's one of the things that when people go into graduate school and into research is something they don't want to do. But
Yeah.
eventually, there is some aspect of selling and of selling your project to get funding, etc., etc. So I agree that there's something there. Yeah.
Sales require a specific profile, but there's also all the jobs in marketing. So when
Hmm.
I talk about marketing, you can go to a website who sells product in science. Um, so who's designed this website? Somebody in marketing. So
Hmm.
if you like designing your science, and if you go deeper, you need a PhD to make the poster on how you will use the product.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is more like um, scientific designer or scientific communicator, science communicator in general, or
Yeah.
somebody. If you want to communicate or vulgarize the science, more scientific journalist as communicate the science. Um,
Hmm.
I'm thinking also about all the jobs if you publish all the job of publishing. So publisher, editor, scientific editor, or you can even if it's really open to humanities because they are so it's all the people who work in journals, scientific
Of
journals
course.
or peer-reviewed journals are have a master or a PhD. um, all the jobs about writing, writers, medical writers. Yeah.
One thing that I'm thinking, and this can be these can be jobs at university, but not in research. So now universities have communications departments where there's knowledge transfer that needs to be done about the research that's done in university, and there's positions there for you too.
Hmm.
And because you being a researcher, you having that background, you are the best person to have these conversations with researchers and help them bring out in a more popularized way, or in a more adapted or less jargony way, whatever research results they have, for example. So knowledge transfer is a good one too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about also like at the university you have a lot of jobs where which is not research related, but who support research. So like all the counselors, all the advisors, grant advisors, at the faculties and universities. If you want, and then you have all these jobs in what I would call innovation and technology transfer,
Hmm.
or intellectual properties. So that IP lawyer. Um, it, lawyer requires more studies after your PhD. You need to have a bachelor in law, more than your PhD, but it's possible.
But you can be an IP officer, right, without having a law degree. There's a place there's place in there in the type of those types of offices for people who come with a PhD, as I remember, without having. But then you need to go get some certification, I believe.
Exactly. So if you are a patent agent, for example, so you work in a law firm and you are a patent agent, you need to have a kind of a certificate. You have to be mentored by a patent agent, somebody who's already patent agent for a couple of years, and then you have to have you need a certificate. I think it's national certificate,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then you are a patent agent. On the other side of the scope, in patent world, you have the patent examiner, who's an employee of the government that review patents and make literature review and see if the patent is valid. So
That's very cool. That's interesting, that because I was going to mention, we're talking about a lot of jobs, outside academia mainly, and you just mentioned government, and I believe that there are many opportunities for PhDs in government. Do you have anything on that?
yes, for sure. I took a list of it. So you can imagine that people who work in fundings. So in
Yes, funding agencies, of course.
funding agencies. So in Quebec, you have the FRQ. People from the FRQ have a PhD, so or masters. So they did science before. You have people from NSERC at the federal. They have PhDs too. So all these people have a PhD and they work at the government.
And it's interesting because these are positions where somehow you stay really close to science, although you're not doing the research. And because often I get this question of, oh, if I leave academia, if I leave research, how can I be? How am I going to be stimulated by whatever I find as a job? And here are all these positions where not only you'll be stimulated, and it doesn't have to be one of these positions, but these specific ones in funding agencies, you're really you're closer to what's being done, and the forefront of research than many people, because you're there evaluating it, and well, saying yes or no if they're going to get funding.
Yes,
Which
yes, it's very important. Of course, actually, this type of just bringing committees together of professors or business people or people to make a committee, and of course, you can read the science and understand the science, and
Mhm.
you can figure out if the grant will be accepted or not. But then it goes to a committee, and you have to bring people together to evaluate things. I'm thinking also about policy advisor or ethics advisor. You need a PhD into it, so, and not necessarily science PhD. It's very open to humanity PhDs.
Yeah, and policy things like that. Even the different government agencies. It can be environment. It could be economy. It can be so many things where your profile as a PhD is going to be useful and valued, but not to do directly with research. And it can be in the social sciences, like you said, and it can be in like life sciences, but it can also just be in economics, for example.
Yeah, and maybe every PhD that listen to us can think about like, well, maybe it's too boring for me. I need to be excited, you know. But actually, not. It's very exciting. A
I'm
very
sure it
exciting
is.
jobs. You know, you have a new grant to manage. I For me, I'm finding it's exciting. Uh, there's there's a lot of things that are very exciting outside of research.
And I remember I talked with Adriana Bankston in one of my interviews on Papa PhD, and she's working in policy in the States. So she's in Washington, and what like gets her going is the fact that the policies that she works on are policies to do with the future of research and how, the evolution of the, let's say, the postdoc career. And so it's it's things that don't impact her today, but she can feel that it's going to impact people who are coming after her in the same, in the same trajectory that she came. So no, it's, and this is just one thing. I'm just thinking of academia, but being in these positions where your decisions and your input can have impact on ecology, on on real life people and things and events, can be really, really exciting. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's very impactful work. I agree with you. There's also like something that we didn't talk about is all the business related jobs. So like business development, thinking about also in marketing, you have product manager, application scientist, application engineer. So all that jobs are related. Sounds very R&D, but you have a foot in R&D and a foot in marketing because you have to sell product too. And of course, so product, business development, and of course, entrepreneur. It's a very
Of course.
entrepreneurship. It's another way to do it, and actually entrepreneurship and about the career path is you can start in a position and change after this, even if you are in a big company or in a startup company. You can start as a business developer and or somebody who's more project manager. You can start from that and start your own company after this. So it's possible.
So one thing I've heard is, I've read somewhere actually, is that PhDs. It was on a report, and anyway. I should check my sources, but that PhDs often, because employers don't, are still not well educated or don't really know what to expect from a PhD. They tend to start on positions that are less than desirable, let's say, for the PhD, so lower positions. But what I read is that eventually, once they get into, and once they prove themselves in that first 6 months or that first year, they evolve in the company faster than other employees because of all the potential they bring, because of the all the learning capacity that they have. Is this something that you've verified also on your side? Because some people are like, oh, why am I, after all these years, I'm starting with this salary in this position? It's a bit unfair. I don't know if you have a reflection on that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So it's sometimes it's in big companies as the policy, like the policy of the company, the culture of the company is you enter at the entry level.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the entry level, you are senior engineer or something like that. So you start with this, and this is because you leave your PhD. You leave your PhD. You finish your PhD. You go directly to industry. So or you still in academia and you leave the academia and you go to the industry. Some company would say like, okay, let's start with an entry position and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the skills that you bring, your skills that you learn during your PhD, and that directly applicable to your jobs. And finally, people figure out that, well, this guy has a PhD and is not a master student or a bachelor student who's, I don't know, a 25 years old guy and doing like go outside of their undergraduate studies. It's not the same. So you bring a lot of value to your company, and people recognize this value and the impact that you bring with you, and promote you maybe quickly into the company.
Where I wanted to go is because the Roman asked this question, and of course, I think the wish and the dream is to find that first position and have it be the perfect one right away, with the salary you expect, and with the whatever the position, the job description that you want. And I tend to tell people to be a little bit, to be ready to, or prepare to just be a little bit humble for that first thing, that first position, especially the first one right after the PhD, because somehow the employer is kind of doing kind of a leap of faith in taking you in. And so it's kind of a give and take thing, where allow yourself to maybe hit, enter at a lower place that you envision yourself, but then be sure that once you're in there, your abilities, your skills will come through, and then you'll be able to evolve. And also, so that's one thing, is allow yourself to be humble at when you get your first foot in the door. And I'd like your comment on that after. And the second one is, which is what you said, is trust that once you're in there, you'll be able to find a place where you'll be fulfilled, you'll be stimulated, and you'll be valued by the company.
As you said, yeah, you have to be humble with the first job that you have. And yeah, even if you are in the entry level, and after 1 year or 2 years you're not satisfied for your job, in this 1 year or 2 years you learn a lot of things. Of course, it's not the end of academia. You learn nothing. You continue to learn something. So you learn your job, and you learn a lot of new things, and you make another kind of network too. And maybe this network, if you're still happy with the job, I mean, you can continue with the job. You will be promoted. You have in companies, you have evaluation every year or every 6 months, to be promoted, and maybe your salary will increase. Maybe your first salary will be unfair. This is maybe what you think, but you can negotiate the salary, and you can continue to be promoted into the company. And if you're not satisfied with the job, you can leave and having another job in another company.
Yeah, and the thing is, once you've had that first year of experience, for the next job conversation, you won't be a fresh out of PhD person. You already have 1 year of industry, and that counts, and you can present that. Plus, and tell me, because I know you talk, you have you interface with companies, and you know this better than me by experience. I believe companies today, especially medium and large companies, are ready to let people move horizontally and vertically, like in the company. You don't get into this first position and then you're not imprisoned in that track. You, especially having a lot of potential, as usually you are, you can say, okay, I got into marketing, but I want to go into strategy or something like that.
Yeah, and actually, it's companies are very very open to it, because if you are in a large company, you start in R&D and you move to marketing, for example, or you go to another place, like, because you want to learn new things. That's very great. But if you go to this new department or new service or new setting, you bring all the things that you learn from the department you work. So
Of course.
you have a better broad vision from the company. And I mean, the company's direction, the company management love it. So they maybe, and sometimes they will push you to move department to department. So I remember I talked to somebody who were R&D manager, and she moved from a department who were specifically in a specific topic, and she moved to another department because of the management said, like, okay, move to the other department, maybe there is an open position in this department. And it's completely different. One was, let's say, mechanical engineering, and the other one was more material science-ish.
Okay.
So she moved to the other department with the same kind of position, but in a different field.
So this shows two things to me: is don't be afraid that that first job is not the perfect one that you dreamed about, Second thing, leaving academia is not the end of you being intellectually stimulated. Of course, if you aren't, then you keep looking for a better job and one that will stimulate you. But there are many out there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And of course, there's many. I mean, there's many type of careers that you can have, and this is basically your choice. So we talk about maybe 20, 30 positions today, but every positions are open to PhD. This is you to figure out what you want.
Yeah, I've seen people who are like in banking, like PhD in history, and is in like started doing project management and is now in sustainable banking. So many different things that you wouldn't expect. The way you're formatted after a PhD, more than the subject you worked on, is what you can leverage, and it can be leveraged in many different contexts. Gad, we're getting to the end of today's PhD Dojo. Like you said, we covered a bunch of positions that you can have. We talked about why you can aspire to have to be in different, even in government, which I think is something people often ignore or kind of don't think about first. First thing. Is there, for someone who is doubting and maybe questioning themselves after listening to this episode, there's one of these things that interests them, what would be a next step to learn a little bit more about what this position looks like? And
It's a very good question. So what we're giving you today is a lot of type of jobs. Companies to company, it could be a little bit different. I remember an R&D engineer in a company, it's engineer 3 in another company. So it's very different. So you have a lot of keywords, and you can think about like, well, when you talked about analyst, it could be interesting for me. So what I would advise is, now you have a lot of keywords, to go on LinkedIn, to go on Google, and you type your keywords. You can go on LinkedIn, like, I'm looking for an analyst position. Okay, so you can have a job description, so learn about what is it exactly, and you have a bunch of people that have this kind of type of position, and you can contact them to have an informational interview. So I think that's the next step.
that's perfect, and I would say exactly the same. So I won't add to that. You nailed it. And I think the question of conversations with people is key, to knowing, because one of the things is you need to some of these things might interest you, and then you see the description and say, okay, I had an idea of this and it really doesn't fit with me. So talking with people and asking, okay, what does the day-to-day look like, is really important. You can even discuss salary, etc. If you're not at the moment of looking for a job, it's a conversation you can have in a relaxed way, to kind of start gathering information.
Exactly. And if it's not for you, you can come back to zero and say like, oh, okay, talk about business development, it's that position. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Gad, this was great. I love having these questions from the second lab. Thanks, Roman, for sharing the question with us. I hope it helped you, and I hope that as it helped you, it will help a lot of people out there who are wondering, what can I do out there with my degree. So again, we'll be here in a couple of weeks again to answer another question. Thanks for those who watched this either live or later on Twitter, on LinkedIn. It's always appreciated if you leave a like. Always appreciated too. More even if you leave a comment. Gad and I would love to have feedback on these episodes, on whether the question resonates with you or something we said. Will always love that. Gad, I think you'd agree.
Yeah, I agree. And if you have yourself questions, like, type the question in the chat, and or you can contact us with a question, and we will talk about it in the next episodes.
It'll be a pleasure to cover your question out there on the show here. And now I just have a last little message. I kind of want to grow the Papa PhD team, which is just me as of yet, since it's we're gonna hit 3 years mid July, and it'd be great that on the 4th year of Papa PhD we'd be a team. So if you're good at graphic design, if you're curious about how podcast works from the inside, like audio editing, promotion, if you're good on social networks, etc., drop me a line, like we used to say in the past. You can write to me at david@papaphd.com, and let's talk. I'd really love to bring this podcast to a different level, and I think it takes more people. Gad, you know how it is, right? You need a team to do certain things.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be surrounded by people that are better than you in different kind of things.
There
so
you go.
yeah. So yeah, you need a team. That's very important.
And Gad, on your side, if people are curious about the second lab, where can they find information?
You can go in our website. We are thinking about moving our business model, and we are deeply thinking about it. And new things will come in September. There will be I hope some information over the summer. So we will keep in touch. Go to our LinkedIn page and like us, and you will be informed in LinkedIn.
In LinkedIn. Perfect. As always, I'll share that link in the show notes. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for having been with us on this this PhD Dojo with the second lab. It was a great pleasure, Gad, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you liked this episode of the PhD Dojo, go to papaphd.com/subscribe and follow the show on your favorite platform. Also, if you're on a platform that allows you to leave stars or to leave a review, please do so. I'll be glad to read it and to give you a shout out on a future episode. Thanks again, and see you on the next episode of PhD Dojo.